There we go.
Yeah,
all right.
Good. It's going to work.
Onto the interweb.
Okay, let's make sure we got everything working. Hello, hello. We are recording. We look good. All right, quick intro, ladies and gentlemen. In my house today, the one and only Darren Frost is here.
Yeah. It's a nice place. A lot of high places to jump off of.
Yeah, well, it's early in the day. We can get that done later, maybe.
Sure.
To jump off the roof. Actually, there's a lot of snow out, so yeah, you might not have the expected outcome.
Yeah, soft landing.
Soft landing. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me.
This is great. Yeah, I think I've invited you before, and you said no on numerous occasions, but...
No, actually, I think this is the first time.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice to meet you.
I normally don't turn these things kind of down as long as I'm not, like... The problem is if I bring my family, it's tough. You know, it's like every moment I'm not on stage, it's family time, so... Yeah.
So, kids? How many kids you got?
I have 3 kids.
3 kids?
Yeah, 3 children,
I mean, you're an anomaly in itself, but a comedian to have 3 children that he takes care of.
Yeah, I'm the stay-at-home dad, so when I'm not on the road or doing cartoon voices, I'm a stay-at-home dad.
Wow. What boy, girl?
3 boys.
3 boys.
3 boys.
That's what I got, too. 3 boys. So
how old?
17, 14, and 11.
Okay. So I'm at 15, 11, and 9.
Oh, very similar.
Almost similar.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the other day at school, should I not say this? One kid, this is like the parent's dream come true. The grade 9 was getting picked on. The grade 12 got told about it, went and stepped in. Yes,
nice.
2 days ago at school. Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah.
High five all around.
Absolutely.
That's what you want out of it?
Yeah. I wish I had a grade 12 stick up for me when I was in grade 9.
Right? Yeah, isn't that nice?
I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
I'd probably making lots of money being an accountant or something.
Yeah, I think you're making lots of money as a comedian. Where'd you grow up?
Brantford, Ontario. Which is hell on earth.
But why is that?
It's a very much like a Bruce Springsteen type song town. You can't wait to turn 16, get a license, and get out of there, kind of thing.
Yeah. And when you did that, where do you live now? Toronto?
I just recently moved to Barrie, Ontario.
Oh wow!
But I lived in Toronto from about 1995 till like last year. So predominantly, and I also lived in LA and a little bit of time in Vancouver and London, England as well for a period. But for the majority of that time, it was Toronto.
Yeah. How do you manage that with the kids, the 3 kids? Because you're on the road a lot?
I'm not on the road that much anymore. I used to be on the road a lot. Before I had kids, I was on the road, 30, 40 weeks a year at least. Now my rule is I only go on the road on weekends, so Thursday to Sunday morning, or twice a year up to 9 days. That's it.
Wow.
So 2 weekends.
That leaves a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
The Monday to Thursday or Monday to Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah, and my kid's old enough now he can be there to look after the other 2, so it's a little bit easier. But yeah, that only happened in the last year or 2.
Yeah. Oh, so the
15-year-old can be there after school and make sure the other 2 get home and safe and all that stuff.
You're married?
Yes.
So she's there too.
Yeah, but she works, so she doesn't get in until 5 or 6. That little window of 3 to 5 is the hardest part, right? There's no parent home, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that is a tough thing to manage for sure.
It is,
especially, being away that often. There's lots of things they do on the weekends that you want to be there for. And you can't because of your job. But what do they think about Dad being a comedian? That's
they don't really care. I thought they would care more about me doing the cartoon voices I do because they watch cartoons, but they don't watch cartoons that I do. So I'm like, all right. To them, I'm just their dad. It's awkward sometimes when someone comes up to me in public and says things to me, and they're kind of like, that's kind of weird. My oldest now is starting to embrace stand-up comedy, but, I'm making sure he's listening to things like Mitch Hedberg and Brian Regan and the softer, kind of nicer comics, but he's starting to get into it, so we'll see.
What cartoon voices have you done?
That's pretty much how I pay my rent now. So right now I'm currently on a show called Total Dramarama, which is like #1 in America on Cartoon Network. And it's here on, I believe, Teletoon. A show called Wish Fart, a show called Ranger Rob.
Are you kidding me? Wish Fart? Who are you on Wish Fart?
I'm Leslie.
Dude,
Leslie.
Every single day my kid comes home at 2:45.
Yep.
Running in the door, he yells Wish, and I yell Fart, and we run to the TV. That's amazing.
Yep. So that, and then a show called Ranger Rob, which is for little kids. That's like the second only Paw Patrol in the world kind of thing. So a fair number of cartoons.
I'm so excited now.
And then, in the past, a lot of people know a show called 16 I was on, and Total Drama Island, and all kinds of other things. So,
Is it because some comedians do voice work for sure, but not a lot.
No.
But what's the relationship? Is it that's not part of your act at all?
No.
It's just because
it's completely separate, and it's a nice thing, because when you do a good job there, they thank you for it. They pat you on the back. You know, as comics, we're pretty much abused housewives for the most part. You know, when someone treats us well, we don't know what to do. Yeah. So in the cartoon world, I've been there for 15 minutes, and they've treated me better than when I killed it just for laughs for 20 shows.
Wow.
You know, it's a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
They're all nice people. A lot of them are ex-musicians, so they like dark humor. Yeah. They get it. It's different. My stand-up is different than my cartoon world. They get it. It's never been a problem. Mm-hmm. Whereas in other facets of showbiz, it has been a problem. Yeah. Whether it's commercials or other things, people see my projection of what my stand-up is, and they think, oh my God, this guy's crazy. He's doing coke off of horse tits all the time, and blah, blah, blah. And it's the exact opposite, but they don't get that.
Yeah, interesting. Why is that they just don't care?
Someone has to justify their job. I have a degree in marketing, so I get it. Someone's got to go vet everyone and then be the one to go, I found this about this guy. Good thing I saved us. Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of that in the Google world. Ever since Google started, I've lost more than half my income, just due to Google searches and getting fired.
Isn't that interesting? You think it should be the other way around, right?
Well, no, because this is Canada, man.
Yeah.
America embraces controversy. Canada doesn't. Canada shies away from it. We act like we like it, but the majority of the media and the sources of where you get your information from do not like it.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever gone down to the States?
I have a little bit, but it's not that easy, especially in a post kind of 9/11 world, and you know the way visas work and everything. You got to spend a lot of money just to go down there. And you know what? If I didn't have kids, sure, I got kids. Ain't gonna happen.
Mm-hmm. Right. So Brantford, brothers and sisters?
I have two sisters.
Two sisters, and you're the youngest, oldest?
I am the youngest.
You are the youngest.
Yep.
That's sweet, yeah.
Yep.
That's I'm also the youngest for sure.
Cry for attention.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, it's exactly it, right? Just find your way to get the attention in the family, and it's usually by making jokes.
Right.
And so what age did the comedy start?
Well, I knew from a very young age, early, almost like 10 or 11, I was staying up late watching all the stand-up comics on Letterman and Carson and all that, and following their careers and renting at the time, their HBO specials and all that stuff, or Showtime at Blockbuster, the evil Blockbuster. And then, I just made a deal with my parents. I'll go to business school, I'll get something to fall back on, but as soon as I graduate school, it's on. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as I graduated, I signed up for amateur nights, and within 2 or 3 years, I didn't have a day job anymore. I was a full-time comic.
Yeah. What school did you go to?
I went to Brock University.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. And you have a degree?
Yeah.
Wow. But you don't do anything with it.
Well, I mean, it's self-marketing, right? Marketing is everything in this business now, especially now more than ever. So I understand how it works. I just choose to opt out of it.
Why is that?
Because I think it's too much. I think there's too much. There's not enough time in the day. Right. It's consuming people. People aren't having enough downtime. People aren't having enough, away from the business time. It's 24/7 on your phone, saying I'm the greatest, I'm the best, I'm the thing that you need to come and see, and I'm not that, and I'll never will be. So I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm. It is. It becomes everything, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen the TV show Yes? It's
no.
on Netflix. It's all about social media and how one guy who's not on social media starts following and stalking people because he has so much information about them.
Right.
And he's in charge because he doesn't have anything on social media.
Right.
Right. So it's another paradigm. It's like, you think you got to be out there to get anything done. But really, this guy's the guy who's in the show where I'm at, winning.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. The phones are great for getting certain things done and being able to communicate with people that would never, ever happen. But the downside to that is everything else. And I think it's too much.
Right.
And, the marketing used to be when you got to a certain level, then you could market yourself a certain way. But now it's the second you are on amateur night, you are marketing yourself. Mm-hmm. And people don't realize that's not always the best. Putting up crappy YouTube videos, that kind of thing. And I mean, we can talk to death about that. But they're already trained, which in some ways is good. That it is smart that you handle it like a business, but you should maybe wait a couple of years, get your shit together, and then figure it out.
Mm-hmm. But what do you do in the interim? Like, how do you get
just started? Get sets, do sets, get better, get better, and then you can maybe brag a little. Mm-hmm. There used to be this thing about rap, right, where I'm not a huge guy into rap, but, the greatest of all time generally didn't have to say it. And then it kind of jumped the shark where now I'm going to say I'm the greatest of all time. Yeah. And at that time, they probably were. But then it started getting to the point where now the young rappers were saying I'm the greatest of all time without a history or a 10 albums or whatever to say and prove I'm the greatest. I just say it means it is. Mm-hmm. Same thing in stand-up comedy. It's more about saying what I am than what I actually am. Mm-hmm. It's like if I talk it, it'll eventually happen. Yeah. Started in the 80s, early 90s. If I say I'm going to get something, it's going to happen. It's that whole Tony Robbins, Anthony Robbins idea. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's a good thing. I think there should be a period where you fail and do certain things before you put it out into the world. But that's that window is now much smaller. It's not a good thing.
Yeah. What does the failure look like?
Well, not doing well,
Yeah.
doing material you're not going to be proud of in 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, there used to be a show called Comedy Now. Comedy Now used to reward predominantly veterans and a couple newcomers. Near the end, it was giving it to almost all newcomers and a couple veterans. And I guarantee, if you sat down all those newcomers down and made them watch their Comedy Now, they put a gun in their mouth because they're like, "That's the first 30 minutes I ever wrote."
Right.
You don't want your first 30 minutes you ever wrote out there. You're not going to be proud of it. You're going to be 40 going, "Man, there's a lot of material in there I regret." And there's no window now to do that.
Yeah.
When I first did my first DVD, which had 3 hours of material in total, bonus features and everything, I had already had more than that.
Yeah.
I was sifting down to that. And that's what people are not doing that anymore. They just get to an amount and they spit it. It's the Louis C.K. model, right? I got a new hour, I put it out. Doesn't matter if it's good, great, or anything. It's a new hour. Yeah. Well, we're not all Louis C.K.
Right. How do you how long did it take you to get to that? That's 3 hours. That's a lot of material.
15 years
15
at least.
years. Yeah.
Of really grinding it out. Like, there's all these guys now that are grinders and they think it's amazing, and they are good at it, don't get me wrong. But back in the day, I grinded it out hardcore. Like, I lived, slept, and breathed stand-up comedy in Toronto. I was the first one to try to do more than 10 sets in a week in Toronto. I was the first one to do a lot of that kind of stuff because it only is the way you build material.
Right.
Is keep going up, trying, failing, changing it, go to another place, try it, fail it, change it, and then make it work. All the material predominantly that gets an applause break in my act bombed the first time I did it.
Interesting. So you just keep going.
You have to keep
trying.
working. You got to keep grinding it out.
Huh. Where did you start? Yucks?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, back then there was only Yucks and a couple other small venues.
Yeah. Who are the guys you were starting with?
None of them do comedy anymore.
Really?
Nope. The only person that's comparable is Chris Quigley. We didn't start together, but we started around the same time.
Right.
And eventually 2 or 3 years we kind of met at the kind of open mic situation. But no one that I actually started with still does stand-up comedy.
You're similar. You're like 42, right?
I'm 48.
48? Oh, same as me.
Yeah.
1970?
71.
You're younger than me.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So you go from Yucks and you're there. You're the first one to do 10 sets a week. How did you find that?
Well, you had to do all kinds of different venues.
Yeah.
I think I did 22 in a week. And then now Don Perez got the record at like 45 or whatever. Different world. There's more places to do it. But, he doubled my record. That's pretty amazing. And Dom's a great comic. So I'm glad to pass that baton on. But back when I did it, there wasn't that many options. So sometimes I had to do an open mic at a music place and, find other venues. You have to do it.
Yeah. How did you, is there money in that? Or
No.
How did you pay?
No.
How did you...
No, because at the time I was doing a lot of commercials. Google hadn't caught up to me in terms of my act.
Yeah.
So I'd done like 50 commercials in 3 years. I was, massive commercial star, what they call.
Okay.
I was making really good money, so I didn't have to worry about money as much.
Yeah.
Plus, I live a very basic lifestyle. I don't drink. I don't do a single drug, never have.
Yeah.
So when I go on the road, my biggest, cost is my food.
Yeah.
That's it. So, when I have a nice house, which I do now, not to brag, and people walk in, I go, heroin paid for this.
Yeah.
Cocaine paid for this floor, because I didn't do it.
Yeah, that's good.
But all my friends did.
Yeah.
Not all my friends, but a lot of my contemporaries did.
sure.
And they don't have anything now.
Yeah. How did you avoid that? I mean, that was all around you.
Well, because when I was very young, my sister got into drugs hardcore, and it taught me a very valuable lesson.
Okay.
Drugs were the devil. And I don't think they're the devil anymore, but it was good for me to have that because it didn't make me start doing it.
Right. So you saw it.
Yeah. I saw the downside to it, for sure.
Yeah. And then, what happened to her? She's okay?
She's okay now,
yeah.
but, she definitely has lifelong problems due to it. And, mental health issues that stems from it. And, you can't take that many drugs and not pay the price.
Right. How old were you when that was going on?
Like 10 or 12.
Yeah, that can have a big effect. I don't know if you know my story, but it's when I was 15, my brother passed away. And I set a goal to make it to the NFL. And, I mean, I had no business making that, setting that goal and making that promise, but I just never gave up and failed over and over.
Yeah,
and
the Jim
over.
Carrey effect. You got to at least think it to yourself. You just don't have to put it out in the world. That's all.
That's right. And
yeah.
then, I mean, 10 years later, I signed a contract with the Miami Dolphins. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was similar sort of thing, right? Seeing something happen to a sibling and then, something
gives you the
happens.
drive.
That's right.
And, the wherewithal to stay at it and say, look, I'm going to be better than this, or hopefully do something that is good with my life. And, I think I've done pretty well. Would I do it all over again? Yes, because that's the only reason I would have met my wife and my kids. So that's at the end of the day, you've got to weigh the pros and cons. So.
Right. All right. I'm always interested to talk to someone who's we're very similar situations because of that. Something happened in youth which made us sort of overcome something and succeed and have a goal. And
right.
I mean, you've done the same. And I just wonder, like, because we both have kids, and then, I mean, you don't want bad things to happen to your kids.
No.
But you want them to be driven and focused and have
Yes.
some like, how do you manage that?
Well, they're still pretty young, although the 15-year-old isn't. I mean, that's one that we're kind of talking to and trying to guide now.
Yeah.
I think, leading through example, they see how hard I work. They see all the stuff I do.
Yeah.
Video games are a lot different now than they were back then.
Yeah.
So it does kind of dig into that time. But, you take one day at a time.
Yeah.
You can't really... When it comes to parenting, I just think it's one day at a time. Anything more than that, you're kidding yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can't make long-term plans.
That's right, and I'm a big fan. That's a good example too. What does that look like for you?
It's getting up, doing all the they see everything I do in the house because they're there, right? Like I'm the house dad. I'm doing everything. I'm cutting the lawn. I'm snow blowing. I'm shoveling. I'm doing all this stuff inside the house. They help, of course, because they're kids, but they can only do so much. Yeah. And then at night, I'm writing or on the computer, and I'm doing this and doing shows and doing cartoons and making it all happen. So, and they see it all.
What is the writing like? You write it down on a piece of paper?
Generally, it starts on paper, and then I kind of edit it down. Mm-hmm. So I get some ideas. I look on the internet for crazy stories, whatever, at the time, and then I go on stage. I do them. I record my sets. I listen to my sets. I write it down on paper. I edit it, and eventually, once I get it down to a certain level, it stays in that kind of form on a computer, and then I also have it on tape. So
that is a lot of work for sure.
Yeah.
One of the hardest things you can do is watch yourself perform, right?
I don't watch anymore. I listen.
Just
listening is a lot easier than watching.
Is that right? Yeah. I've always just videotaped it and then watched it, but
it's hard.
Yeah, you know how I do it is I won't put the sound on the first time just to sort of get myself used to it, and you also see the mannerisms and what you're doing, facial expressions and that sort of thing too. But
I did do that, but now I'm to the point where it's like I can tell by just the sound of my voice what I'm doing on stage, and once in a while I'll watch myself on video and make sure I don't have tics that I've taken up or whatever picked up, but for the most part it's audio.
Yeah, and so do you still do that every time, or?
Pretty much, although the last 4 months I haven't. Mm-hmm. Actually, not I think in November we recorded it. So I recorded another album with, I did an old school kind of split album with Kenny Robinson on this Rank and File tour that we do. So it's coming out in February. So I had to tape myself a lot leading up to that. Mm-hmm. But now that that's in the can, I'm not really recording myself right now because I'm working on a little bit of new stuff, but not that much. So I'm kind of coasting, but it's coasting on material that's, less than a year old. So it's not that bad.
How much material do you have accumulated, do you think, over the years?
Is 7 or 8 hours.
That's amazing, right?
But, some of them are stories, some of them are bits, They're not all A, but, they're depending on where I am in my life and how I can deliver them, they go from an A to a B,
Yeah, for sure. But, just the fact that you've, gone through that whole process. And is there a message in what you say when you're on stage?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's to shock people. Sometimes it's to wake them up. Sometimes it's to give them a message. Mm-hmm. I find it, depending on the crowd, is what you can get away with. Yeah. Certain shows, there's no Art Friday late show. Mm-hmm. There's no point. Just do your dick jokes and get off. Yeah. Saturday early show, I can do 10 minutes on Trump. Friday late show, good luck getting away with it. I'll still do it, but I know it's not going to work that great.
Right.
But then that gives me the idea of I can say, hey, fuck you people. I'm going to do what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And there's some kind of, anger is energy in that, and I can, harness that. But for the most part, it's from show to show. You've got to look at the crowd, see what they're going to be into, and then judge accordingly.
Right. Well, where does the anger come from?
Life.
Yeah?
Yeah.
From just...
everything.
Yeah.
Everything. There's no comic that you will find that has had worse luck than myself, other than a death in the family like you have had. Mm-hmm. I've had death in my family, but it's not traumatic death. It's like old age or, a disease we saw coming or something. Oh. But for the most part, if you added up all the things that have happened to me, it would not have happened to only one human being.
Well, let's talk about those, though, because I'm so interested in people overcoming these things.
So first of all, 2 of my children had a congenital heart defects when they were born and have had open heart surgery. Okay. So to have 2 children of 3 that have had that problem is right there. No doctor has ever seen that.
That's how my brother passed away.
Right, okay. So that was huge. Yeah. My wife was told she had chlamydia, and for 2 weeks she thought I gave it to her, and then it turned out that the test was a faulty test, and that she never had it to begin with. Yeah. So I had to live with that for 2 weeks. I've had a vasectomy gone horribly wrong. I've had kidney stones.
How does a vasectomy go?
It can go wrong. 99.9%, it's great. You go to an office, they cut your bag, and that's it. It's over. But then there's that 1% where you don't hear about where it can go violently wrong.
Does that mean have another kid? Or
No, I mean, that's, not violently wrong. That's wrong. But violently wrong meaning, like, it got infected. I had to have surgery. Like, I had to be put under to have my vasectomy because of my problems.
Wow.
And then when I wake up, it gets infected, and it's got to be drained, and I can't walk for 3 months. Oh. And still to this day, we're not sure if it worked or not, but I'm not going to go get it tested again because I'm just tired of being tested. It's over and over. Yeah. So,
That is...
so that's, only in the last 4 years. Yeah. Then I go back to childhood, when it's part of my act. It was years ago, but it's a true story. When I was in high school, I applied for a foreign exchange trip. It's called CEVEC. It's where people in Quebec and Ontario, they switch, and they kind of come to your house for 2 weeks, and you go to their house for 2 weeks. And 41 people applied, and 40 could go. Mm-hmm. And that's an actual fact.
That's crazy.
And instead of finding another person... Yeah. In Quebec, they just got all 41 of us in this big room, and they yelled out 41 applied, 40 could go, and then they yelled out louder. They go, "Hey, Darren, can we talk to you outside for a few minutes?"
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like me trying to make a football team.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm picking the guy in the wheelchair over me. Yeah. I'm like, but I can run,
Yeah. Wow. That's unbelievable, man. What do you attribute this to?
Who knows? I call it the Frost effect, the Frost curse, Yeah. But it's, it's giving me material. It's giving me, of that 8 hours, probably 4 or 5 hours of it is life stuff. That's just, screwed up.
That's where the anger comes from.
Right. And people think, oh, you're angry because of this, and you have no idea why I'm angry.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even walk 3 meters in my shoes. Like I have a good friend named James Cunningham, very good comic, does more corporate stuff. But he's constantly like, I can't believe this. Like he knows, like I even forget. Like I can't even remember it all.
Yeah.
Like he'll just call me and go, "Hey, remember this time this happened?" I'm like, I have no memory of that. Yeah. And then he talks me through it. I'm like, "Oh yeah, right. Yes, that did happen. Yeah."
Wow.
Because you can't. If you dwell on it, then it just bogs you down. You've got to just move on. I wrote about it. I got laughs out of it. That's a win. Put it on the DVD. Go to the next DVD.
Yeah. See what happens next.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And that's what it's all about, right? Yeah. Overcoming obstacles and learning to take those things and making them the motivator, right? The reason why things turn out well.
Yeah.
We look back, that's a Steve Jobs one, right? We look back to connect the dots to see.
Right.
I mean, you got a beautiful family, a great house, career, people pay to see you.
Yep.
So all those things have led to that.
Yeah.
Would you, is there one you'd change? Maybe the Vas Devern thing, probably, I would imagine.
No, because I got material out of it. Yeah. At the end of the day, if I get material out of it and it's not a lasting effect, the thing about vasectomies, not a lot of people know. There's 1 in 1,000. You'll have a pain in your groin that will never go away. Like you just will always walk around with a pain in your groin, and it's 1 in 1,000. Yeah. And I didn't get that, so I'm like, okay, I got some material out of it. I got a bit out of it. It was shitty for 3 months, but in the grand scheme of life, that's not much. So that's a win. Yeah. But if I also had a pain in my groin that lasted for the rest of my life, that ain't a win. That's not enough for material.
That's right.
Up to a point, enough for material. Yeah. Past that, okay, no. I'd rather do it, not do it. But, you don't know till you try.
That's right. Your kids, they're okay?
Well, the one kid has to have probably open heart surgery in the next 2 months. So I'm kind of, settling down to an idea of like not going on the road for a while to recuperate from that. So
yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, that's when my brother was young, they didn't have a surgery to fix that. And,
no, not back then.
Yeah, no, I mean it was like baboon hearts and stuff like that. Yeah, and it didn't exist unfortunately. And I mean, there's always the talk of it, and we would go to Toronto to see. I wouldn't go
a specialist.
Yeah. And then one day just. Didn't go so well,
Yep. That's the difference between the 70s and the 90s or 2000s. What they can do now is unbelievable.
That's right.
But back then, like when my son was born, they said if he was born in the 70s, we don't know if he would have made it.
That's right.
But definitely not to the age that he is now. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah, that's the. I mean, my brother, that was the same sort of thing. I only found out sort of afterwards. I didn't know as I was younger, so.
Right, you're not going to find out all the details.
I didn't know the details, yeah. And
then my third son, they ran every test on him, and there was a period where they told us they thought he might be one of those werewolf babies. Like the ones all covered in hair, like on the face and everything.
Yeah, why is that?
Just because they. That's not me, is it? No, it's me, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, a werewolf baby. Wow, that's got some upside to it too, I would imagine.
Yeah,
But why did they think he was going to be a werewolf?
Because my first 2 children had these major problems, so when the third one was coming along, they ran every test, to make sure, right, while it was still in the womb, because they have to get ready for it. If it's got the same heart problem, delivery is different. Mm-hmm. Like my first son, I didn't even get to really see. Like as soon as it came out of the womb, it was like a football. Literally, they ran it from nurse to nurse, bam, 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 in a machine. Mm-hmm. Like we didn't get to touch, do anything for at least a half an hour, 45 minutes.
Did you know he was coming out with a heart?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then So what happened? Did he have surgery right away?
No, for him it was a few months.
Yeah.
But he was born 2 months premature.
Wow. So he had to stay in the hospital
So
the
he
whole
had to stay in
time?
the hospital for a very long
man.
time. Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Poor fella.
Yeah.
Does he like go to school? Everything's
Yeah, he's
normal
healthy.
now?
He's like he's. They said 90% healthy life. He just can't play football or wrestle.
Yeah.
Because that constant hitting of the chest.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't want to risk it.
But he can exercise
Yep,
and
yep,
run
yep,
and stuff.
yep.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Does he have like checkups every once in a while?
Yeah. Every couple of years.
Yeah.
They both do. And, talk about bad luck. My middle child who's having this surgery, a year ago went for his yearly checkup, but our doctor wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so another doctor looked it over and said, okay, he's fine. And then this year, a month ago or 2 months ago, my wife goes in with him for his yearly checkup. And our doctor's now back, looks at the paperwork and goes, what is going on here? He should have had a surgery a year ago. This paperwork from a year ago is not good. Mm-hmm. That doctor should not have let you gone. You should have had a surgery a year ago. I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's real. That's what happened. And
yeah.
So then now the surgery.
Now it's like a race to get him a surgery, which is going to happen in February.
Wow.
Yeah. And they don't know if there's been any damage because hearts can't overperform for a period of time. It does damage. So now I got to hopefully nothing bad happened. And
that must be like. What do you talk to him about? You need to talk to him.
You talk to him a little bit, but you can't give him too much details. He's just a kid, right? He's just like, I'm a little tired every once in a while. Okay. Mm-hmm. Hopefully with your surgery it'll get better. You got to tell him what's happening. You got to tell him he's gonna, wake up in a hospital and spend some time there and miss school, but that's as far as it really goes.
Yeah, he's 11.
11, yeah.
11. Wow, I have an 11-year-old. We talk about taekwondo and stuff, but that's a way different level of what you got to speak to your children about, right? I suppose that's also part of the anger on stage, right? I got to deal with this at home. I get on stage and this is my outlet. Right?
When my first child had open heart surgery, that night, so he had it during the day. That night I was at the downtown in Toronto headlining. It was my headline week. You only get it every 2 years. So I'm like, I'm not passing this up. Obviously, if something happened to my child during the surgery, I would have canceled it. But so, successful surgery. I'm on stage like 3 hours later screaming my head off. Yeah. And afterwards, the manager pulled me aside and said, man, maybe you should have took the week off. Your kid having open heart surgery and all this. I said, no, man. No.
Right.
I said, I need this.
You need it, yeah.
I'm screaming my head off for a reason. This isn't fake anger. This isn't, I'm not getting able to finger bang my girlfriend tonight. This is real anger. This is real shit. This is stuff that motivates you to keep on going and having the outlet to do it. So. Did
you talk about it on stage?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Would you just lead with that, or?
No. You get them on your side, then you start talking about really twisted stuff like that. I mean, that's always the rule.
Yeah.
Like even last night, the 2 new stories that I'm doing, I didn't do them until 20 minutes in. Mm-hmm. You kind of get them on your side to the best that you can, and then you go into some stuff to where it's like, oh man, I didn't think I was going to hear a story like that.
So it's storytelling then?
It's half and half.
Yeah.
There's jokes, and then about halfway through it switches over to long-form storytelling. That has jokes in it, but they're harsh, and people aren't expecting it.
Mm-hmm. What do you consider like a good night as far as reaction from the crowd?
I personally don't care about a reaction from the crowd.
Yeah.
I know if it's a good night just by the way that I've told the jokes and what I've wanted to do. Okay. That's what I measure it by. Yeah. Because that's the only thing I can control.
Right.
It's great if they enjoyed it. I want them to enjoy it. I'm not that much of an asshole. But at the same time, if I've not done anything new and I'm just playing it by the numbers and they had a great time, that's fine. That's good. That's what my job is. But that's not great for me because that doesn't help me. It only helps me if I'm doing new stuff or delivering material in the way that I want to deliver it. I hit all the marks that I wanted to. I didn't forget something. I didn't slur my words or fuck order up or anything like that. Then that's a win for me because that's me working on an act.
Right.
Even though I'm getting paid, I'm still working on an act.
Yeah. So you head into a show with some goals in mind?
Yes.
Like, did you write that down? Or
no, because I know what the 2 goals are. Like last night, it was to tell the 2 stories back to back, which I'd never done in Ottawa before.
Okay.
So that's like, those 2 stories are almost 18 minutes in total.
18 minutes each?
No.
Okay.
Together.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So you told 18 minutes and back to back. And that was this. And how did it go? Good?
It went well. I hadn't told the stories in a few months because it's been Christmas. I've had time off. Yeah. And also the Christmas type shows that I do, I can't do that kind of material. Like I've got 3 different acts. I've got the act, I do the monkey dancer, it pays my rent, it's a little cleaner. Then I have the kind of R show, ooh, he said some bad words. Then I have the show I want to do. That's the show I want to do, but I can't do that all through the year. If you go to a small town fundraiser, you do the monkey act. I get it. They don't want to see anything that crazy. Big city people saying these crazy stories. Yeah. I get it. They want comedy like they see on TV, and it's a traditional form, so I do it.
I like that you have 3 different options. That's great. I mean, that works out really well.
Well, you have to have different hats.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you're going to stay in this business for a long enough time, I don't make money from writing. I make it from performing. Every other comic that you can mention in this country either makes their money after a certain period of time from writing or doing something else. Okay. So I'm lucky I do the cartoon voices. That pays that portion of my rent that allows me to do stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Not one comic in this country, other than maybe Nikki Payne, who still lives here, only does stand-up. And even Nikki does a lot of acting and other things that we don't know about. You cannot make it on just stand-up money alone. It's not possible.
So it's your art. It's your outlet.
Yes.
It's how you sort of...
I do everything else so I can pay for my kids' rent, and I'm allowed to do stand-up comedy. So like when my wife goes on vacation with her friends, it goes on a cruise, it costs me $2,000. When I go on vacation, I go do stand-up comedy, and I might make $2,000. That's how it is.
Huh. Did you do those cruises? Is that what you meant?
No, but I'm saying like her vacation time costs me money. When I go on vacation privately, I do tours.
Oh, I see.
That's my vacation time. That's my ability to go and me and Kenny go have fun and do shows.
Yeah.
So it's I don't go with a bunch of guys and go somewhere for the most part.
Right.
My vacation time is stand up.
Kenny Robinson, you guys have been together a long time?
Long time, yeah.
Why is it you guys work so well together?
Because when it's a full dirty show,
yeah,
people know what they're getting and know what to expect for the most part. Especially when I run the show, the posters, everything. Nobody's going to walk in there going, I think this is just Seinfeld. It's not. Also, we complement each other very well. He does a lot of political comedy. I do more socio-political. So we don't touch on the same topics ever. And, Kenny is one of the greatest comics this country's ever had. And not enough people know that. So I do a lot of work in getting shows to try to help spread that word. Right. I think the industry's a travesty of what they've done to Kenny Robinson and not used him or utilized him. And it's a joke.
How should they use him?
They should book him. When was the last time you saw him at Yuck Yucks Ottawa?
I don't.
We're done.
Yeah.
We're done.
The only time I saw it was the...
when I brought him here.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
That's when I saw it, yeah. For sure.
You know?
He doesn't play in Ottawa?
Nope.
That's just... Oh, that's too bad.
Politics.
Yeah? Is that what it is?
Politics. Bullshit and politics.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to give me a reason, but they can't say it to my face. Nobody looks me in the eye and says, this comic's better, that's why I book him and not Kenny.
Right.
They can't. They come up with some excuse. And it's just an excuse. Festivals, it's an excuse. I ran a festival for 5 years.
Yeah.
Trust me, you can find in the budget. If you want to bring in the best that you want, you have to, you can find the money. You can find a way. You don't want to find a way. So don't tell me that you can't afford to bring in Kenny Robinson.
He's a full-time comic?
Yeah, and he does acting and other things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I first started in comedy, the name I always heard was your name, Darren Frost. Darren Frost.
Right.
I had seen him, I heard him. So you have a huge following, right? Like a big...
I think I have a following within comics of a certain era, and that's been done now for a couple of years because I don't grind it out as much as I used to, or tour as much, or come to towns as much as I used to. Yeah. So, the way it used to work in the 80s is your reputation preceded yourself, so that sold tickets, but you were always there every 4 to 6 months. That's how a following happens.
Right.
If you don't keep coming back, they move on to someone else. So right now, I come to Ottawa 12, 16 months. You can't build a following like that. Even though I flip material and they're never going to see the same material. Like I said, last night I did probably 25 minutes that I've never done in Ottawa before. And I had repeat customers come up to me and said they loved it. Yeah. But if you're only coming every 12 months, it can't happen.
Right.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. But at the same time, I still tell people, Darren Frost's on the show tonight, and they know who you are.
Sure.
So I mean, you.
But imagine if it was like I said, like it used to be, where you come back every 6 months to 8 months, and you're a headliner, and people know exactly what they're getting. That's how followings start. Certain comics get that benefit. A guy like Mike Ward in Ottawa plays here a lot. Derek's again. They build a following that way.
That's right.
There was a time where nobody was on TV more than I was. And Yuck Yucks never utilized me. When I was doing all those commercials and everything, they barely used me. And the second I stopped doing all the commercials, all of a sudden they're like, hey, we can start using you. I'm like, it's too late now.
Why wouldn't they?
Because it's all politics. It's politics runs this business. That's it.
But, I understand politics, especially coming from football, huge politics. But how does that benefit... like them? Because
then it shows them that I need them and they don't need me. And this business is about control. It's not about funny. It will always be about control.
Right. So they think you would have too much power if you were then also on stage and on TV at the same time. Would that be the same what you're talking about for Kenny?
Yes.
Like they just don't want him to be.
Yeah, but I mean, with Kenny, they can always use age. This business also loves to use the idea of age against you. That you're too old, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, we're too old. You know, last night was predominantly young. Last night I did well. Probably better than the average comic.
The audience was young? Okay.
Yeah. And every time I've played to young crowds, I do great. And so does Kenny. Because dirty comedy is universal and good dirty comedy is universal. It doesn't matter about age.
Yeah. So you don't think the millenniums, you hear about, though, they don't want to hear that stuff, but...
I think there's a certain population that doesn't, and they may not come to this show anyways. They know what it is. See, I don't have a problem with safe rooms. Yeah. People would think I do. I don't, because if that's what you want, you're entitled to it.
Yeah.
But don't come to my show forcing me those same rules. You want non-rape comedy? Sometimes I don't want to hear about that shit, especially from young comics, because they don't do a good job with that kind of material. Yeah. I'll go to a safe room. Yeah. Because I know.
What does that mean, safe room?
Safe room is a room where they have rules and the establishments that say you can't do certain kinds of jokes.
Okay.
Right? So, sometimes it's language, sometimes it's content, sometimes it's like a no rape joke policy. And all that is just filtering out for the crowd to make their choice.
Right.
But I got no problem with that. But don't come to my show and say they should not be laughing at this. Because look, we have 101 Dalmatians and we have Django Unchained for a reason.
Yeah.
Nobody goes into 101 Dalmatians expecting to see Django Unchained and vice versa.
Right. Well, is there a line you don't cross?
There is no line, in my opinion.
Yeah. So
everything is on the table as long as you know what their intent is, and their intent is to make you laugh.
Yeah. Do you ever say things you wish you hadn't?
Of course. That's the whole point.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. And what is you hear dirty comic? Is that what you consider yourself?
Well, I just consider myself a comic, but people have to make boxes, and so I'll say, yeah, I'm fine with dirty comic.
Yeah. What does that mean?
It just means you either use language or concepts or material that is off color or not traditional, clean. See, that's the other thing. Like, clean comics still do innuendo, and to me, a dick joke's a dick joke, whether you call it a dick joke or not. If it's innuendo, it's still a dick joke.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, and the concepts, like what? As far as the concept,
for example, third world hunger.
Yeah.
Okay, there's one that's been done for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
I don't know of a single clean comic that has done a lot of third world hunger material, because most of it's based in a very dark idea of what that represents. So dark comedy also falls under dirty. It's like the Nasty Show Just for Laughs. It's not really the Nasty Show. It's the dirty show. It's 90 minutes of dick jokes for the most part.
Yeah.
Real nasty comedy includes dirty, dark, other things. Doesn't happen on the Nasty Show. Only dirty does. So that's why you have guys like Mike Ward and Derek, although Mike is a little darker than Derek, but they predominantly do, and Mike Wilmot, dirty comedy.
Yeah. So are you nasty as well?
I would consider myself a nasty comic.
Yeah.
Because I do dirty and I do dark material. Very dark material. My new stuff right now, it's 8 minutes on suicide.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Are you going to do that tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's interesting for sure. That's a touchy subject. Obviously, yeah, people
try to get laughs out of that when people are out there on a Friday night with their friends.
Do you get laughs out of that?
Sure. I wouldn't keep doing it if I didn't.
Yeah. You're getting something, right? You're evoking an emotion, and that's, there's always balance. So if you go down deep, then do they come up equally as high?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I've always said, love me or hate me, it's the same reaction. You're not going to forget it. That's it.
You're not going to forget it.
That's my whole thing.
Yeah.
In a comedy club, all rules are off. Yeah. At a corporate event, rules. Fundraiser, rules. Yeah. Small town comedy show, rules. In a comedy club, presenting stand-up comedy, and I'm there headlining, no fucking rules.
I like that.
And if they want rules, go next week and see who's here next week.
That's right.
I'll tell you, I had people call, write me, oh my God, I wasn't told what the show was and I didn't like it. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I said, I looked up the thing, these three comics. Any of these three comics you'll probably like.
Yeah.
You want free tickets to any of those three comics, you let me know. And I've gotten people who've hated me free tickets because they wrote me like that. They didn't write me going, you should never do comedy like that. You're a fucking, I hope you get cancer, which I've gotten, hundreds of times these types of emails. Yeah. I don't answer those. Fuck these people. Right. But if you come to me, honestly, and go, look, I didn't know it was going to be like that. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Then I'll be like, I'll come back to you with like, yeah, okay. They didn't put the poster for Django Unchained. You thought 101 Dalmatians. You got in there right away. It's not 101 Dalmatians. And you left. Yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah, no, I think it's cathartic. I think if you go to a show and someone talks about suicide and it's touched your life, then you can find the humor in it.
50%, but then the other 50% is like, oh, you can't talk about suicide because my brother did this or my sister did that. That's you.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
That's like you said earlier. That's the person just looking to complain about
right,
something.
or that's your baggage. You have the right to your baggage. You have the right to leave, but you don't have the right to try to stop a show for others that are enjoying that baggage.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So you think when you say 50-50, you don't think that people who are affected by the things that you're talking about have the biggest reaction to them?
Not always.
No, it's just people who are just.
Sometimes it happens that way. Sometimes not.
Yeah. So suicide. What are the other topics that you could touch on?
Well, right now I talk about. I went to Chinatown in Toronto and almost got jacked off by a dude at a massage place, a legit massage place.
You went for a massage and the guy wanted to jack you off.
No, he didn't want to. He did. He tried. So that's not a story where you're like, oh, Seinfeld.
Yeah.
What happened to my socks?
Yeah.
You know.
That's right. That's. Why would you go get a massage in Chinatown?
Because it's cheap, and I've done it before in the same place, and it's a great place, and they walk on your back, and they readjust your back. It's amazing, but, luck of the fucking frost curse, I get a dude to try to jack me off.
That's amazing. So, I mean, like, you go out there and you live your life, and then these crazy things happen,
yes.
And then you just go and tell them on stage.
Right. And, people still think, look, 90% of my act is true.
Yeah.
There is a little 10% of embellishment.
Of course.
But the embellishment isn't as big as you may think it is.
Uh-huh.
It's just wording something or making it look from a certain perspective that isn't true.
Right.
But 90% of the story is true.
Mm-hmm.
So afterwards, last night, a comic came up to me and, oh my God, that was hilarious. That was so funny, that story about, Chinatown. Oh my God, it was great. But what really happened? I said, well, exactly how I said it. That's how it went down.
Right.
They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how it happened. And I'm constantly asked this, like, how much is made up and how much is true?
Right.
And, like, none of it is made up. I might make up me saying, and then I thought this. Because that's a thought. That's a made-up thing. Mm-hmm. But if I say he did this and then did this, then did this, that's how it happened. Mm-hmm. I'll add little things inside of what happened, little jokes and side thoughts, but the majority of it is on point. Mm-hmm. But people don't believe that it can happen like that.
Mm-hmm. So I've heard. So you would. Let's take this for an example. You go into Chinatown, you get jacked off. So when you're going to write it, you write down basically just what happened. You're not even looking for the funny.
No.
You're just writing down what happened. Because the whole premise is funny, right? So it's a great story to tell.
Right.
And then you would go back and you would add in sort of a setup and a punchline.
Yeah, you write all the story out, exactly how it happened. Mm-hmm. Then you have beats inside that you can lay jokes into or comments. Mm-hmm. And you got to remember, when it comes to storytelling, not every comment you make has to be a joke, but every comment you make has to either add to the story or push it forward. Okay. So, for example, in that story, in the comic who came out to me yesterday picked up on this, there's a few times where I make myself the asshole in the story because that moves it forward. So when he does something very wrong and I react to it, it's a bigger punch because I've made myself up to be the one I'm judging. I'm the judgy asshole here. Because every time I thought it was going to go one way because I judged the guy, it went a different way. Mm-hmm. So people like that, right? They like when I'm the asshole and I admit it. Mm-hmm. But then when it flips and he turns out to be the one doing something wrong, that adds to the punch. Yeah. So you do that. That's storytelling things. So some of that's not true per se, but that's the stuff I'm adding to it. My thoughts, my feelings in the moment. Right. That makes it funnier. But all the idea of A to B to C to D is already done. That's already done for you. Yeah. It's just finding out. And then, the ending to the story is always the hardest part to find. And you only generally find that by doing it many, many times, living in the moment, rethinking of how it works, and then something will come to you, and then you get an end.
Interesting. Wow, that's really... like a nice sort of formula thing to follow. Do you ever, it's called like a check-in, like talk to the audience and then sort of flip it back to them? Like, for example, for that sort of story, what kind of questions would you ask the audience?
So the basic story is, I'm not going to tell the whole story, but the basic story is in Chinatown, in Toronto, there's a place. You can get a 1-hour foot massage and a 1-hour back massage for $70 total.
70?
70. Okay. Total. That's an unbelievable deal.
2 hours, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I've done it at this place many times. Okay. That's very important. I've done it many times. I know it's a legit place. It's not a hand job place. Yeah. So I go, and it's so busy I'm with James Cunningham, my friend. Okay. He's just doing the foot massage, and we get the foot massage first. Normally it's a woman who does it, but it's so busy today at this place that it's a guy who's going to do it. And so at that moment I go, okay, now I'm going to have a guy do my foot massage. For men, some men are not comfortable with getting massage from men. Yeah. What about you, sir? And that's when I bring the audience in.
Okay.
And that's a stop moment in the story where now we don't know where it's a choose your own adventure part. Yeah. It's going to go somewhere or it's not, depending on what he says. I live inside that moment, I do. And then I go back to foot massage was great. Then I go to that, and then I go to the back massage part.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a woman. It's a dude who comes in because it's so busy. Now I can stop again. Now, you, sir, you said yes to the foot massage. Yeah. Would you say yes to the back massage? So last night, there was a guy in the front row. He said yes to the foot massage.
Yeah.
Another guy, yes to the foot massage. Yeah. I always set up 2 people. Mm-hmm. So then when I get to the back massage, this one guy's like, no way. Yeah. No way. I'm like, okay, so now I know where the line is for you, right? Yeah. Foot fine. Anything north of the foot, off limits, right? Yeah. And this guy, he's okay with it. So then I can play them against each other, right? Like, this guy's okay with his sexuality. What's wrong with you, sir? Wow. It's just a massage, you know? So all those moments don't happen unless I incorporate the audience.
Yes.
At a moment where I know it always stops, so no matter what happens, I know where I'm getting back on board the train.
Yeah.
So
wow, that's excellent, man. That's a lot of work, and I know I've had a lot of. This is my 56th podcast. And
right.
I've had probably 30 great comedians on here, and I've seen all sorts of different sort of creative processes.
Right.
And that's maybe the one that I think is maybe the most like labor intensive. And
yes,
it's sort of where I come from too, because I was a motivational speaker, still
right.
am for 8 years. And
yep.
we have to do all those things.
Yes.
We check in with the audience, and then
yes.
bring them back and check into their world, show them that my story.
If you talk too long and it's not interesting enough for them, you will lose them.
That's right.
So then the rest of your story is done.
Mm-hmm. You have to use all those tricks. How did you? Is this something you learned through trial?
Yeah, through time. Through time.
Through watching other people.
Yeah, I can read an audience.
Yeah.
Like I can tell the difference between an audience is laughing at me because I'm screaming, and they're laughing at me because what I'm screaming.
Right.
There's a difference.
Right.
And it is based on how drunk they are.
Yeah.
The more drunk they are, they're not really listening to me. They're just laughing at the short troll jumping around screaming. And I know that because I'll fuck up a joke on purpose.
Yeah.
On purpose. And they still laugh.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is pointless now. Mm-hmm. Like everything up to that point, I'm thinking, oh, this might be a good crowd to do my 10 minutes of new politics.
Yeah.
Out the window.
Yeah.
Because they're only laughing at what I'm screaming.
Yeah.
So if I get into something deep and thought-provoking, they're not going to be on board.
Right.
So, okay, we're off that. Mm-hmm. Here's 10 more minutes of dick jokes.
Wow. You're like a true professional in this art, for sure.
That's why I don't drink, because it's like, you know what? I don't use it as a crutch.
Yeah.
If I bomb, it's my fault. You know, maybe it's not my fault, but it is. I can't blame it on alcohol.
Yeah.
Alcohol's a crutch.
It is a crutch, for sure.
It is.
I mean, I always have, I try to have a couple beers.
Right.
I'm there to have a good time as well.
Right,
So,
right.
But it is, like you say, it's a crutch.
Yeah, so then you can blame it. Oh, I shouldn't have had that beer.
That's right, yeah.
You're not going to say, I shouldn't have done that joke. I shouldn't have said that to that person. Your first go-to is like, I shouldn't have had beers.
Right.
You're not really being self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something else I think most comics suffer from. Very few comics are self-aware in this country.
Yeah.
Enough.
What does that mean?
It means know what they are. Know what they're doing. Know what they're doing right and wrong. Knowing if they're liked in this industry or not. And why are they not liked? And why are they not? Should they work on themselves? Yeah. Should they maybe not be such a dick around these people all the time?
Who are you? Like as far as self-aware?
I'm self-aware.
Yeah.
I'm probably self-aware to a fault.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know who likes me, who doesn't like me. They know who I like and don't like. I make no bones about it. I'll name names. I don't care who I like and don't like. I don't care. It's not. It is what it is.
That in itself is likable, right?
Well, to a certain core, but unless you're one of the ones I don't like.
Yeah. What do you like as far as your audiences? What are they there to see? Like when you go to like say for example last night when you went to the show, how many people were there to see Darren Frost? How many were there to see a comedy show?
Maybe 10 people were there to see me personally.
Yeah.
Everyone else was there for a comedy show, but there was a group from an auto place, and they were loving it.
Yeah.
But they weren't expecting to hear a jack-off story. And, I don't want to be stereotypical, but I don't see a bunch of auto guys sitting around going, oh, man, that jack-off, man, that guy got jack. Not a typical thing. Yeah. But times are changing.
Yeah.
People are people.
Mm-hmm.
There's liberal people who do those jobs, and there's conservative people who do those jobs. There's people who believe in certain rights and don't believe. Mm-hmm. It's not as cut and dry as it used to be.
Yeah, for sure. You
mean go ahead.
The occupation that the audience
like the auto group, right? Like,
right.
I've had it where it used to be, especially in Ottawa, like how he would come up to me and it's like, it's kind of old, you might want to be a little worried. I'm like, no, I'm not going to. Most of my audience that are older love it.
Yeah.
Because they know the difference between real anger and fake anger. They've lived longer than I have. They can see whether this shit that I'm screaming about should be screamed about. I'm not screaming about Starbucks ripping me off or whatever. I'm screaming about something deeper than that to my life. Mm-hmm. And they can tell.
Right.
They may not enjoy it, but they know it's not like he's just running around screaming. You know, they at least give it a second to listen. They're generally not hammered. And most old people love it. You know, one of the best compliments I ever got was this old woman came up to me and said, "Keep doing it, cunt."
That's a good one.
That's an old woman, an old lady who looks like a grandmother, who watched my act, was going to say that, knowing full well I'd find that hysterical, and I did.
Yeah. Have you ever written a book? I mean, this is stuff that you could...
No. I'm not good at grammar. I don't want to be a writer. I don't want any of that stuff. I don't want anyone else tell... See, my problem is you're not going to tell me what funny is. I know what funny is.
Yeah.
And when you write something, you have to give it to someone else, and they pay you for that, and then they tell you, this isn't funny, change it. Right. I'm like, no.
I don't mean a book that's funny. I mean a book about how to be a stand-up.
No.
I mean, like, is the process that you seem to have,
I teach a little course with Kenny. We do a one-day workshop.
I've taken it,
we don't charge a lot of money. It's like either $40 or $50 total.
Yeah.
You get 2 hours with me, 2 hours with him. I say all this kind of shit. Listen to this podcast for free. But I say a whole bunch of shit. Take it or leave it. This is what I've learned.
Yeah, it was great.
Kenny does the same thing from his point of view of writing jokes. Yeah. And then you move on. We're not sucking out $400 an 8-week process. Yeah. We're just telling you what we think is important. If you want to make the mistakes we make, that's no problem. But just know that you're making a mistake. And know that if you're going to do it again, don't do that again. That's all.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've obviously learned all this from watching other people. And from yourself, trial and error, and then watching other people. Who are some of the people that you watched that perhaps had a similar sort of process?
Well, Kenny has a similar process of always grinding it out. Just trying. Guys like Mark Walker do as well. And when I started, guys like Mike Wilmot, I'm not saying he doesn't anymore. I don't really do many shows with Mike anymore, but that was someone else that I kind of watch, kind of grind it out and do a lot of
By grind it out, you mean like work hard?
Work hard and do material and do sets all over Toronto and jump on shows. It doesn't matter about the money. It's like I'm working on something. Rob Pugh's in that category now, very much so. So those are the guys, and you got Jen Grant here would do a lot of shows, and you've got, Kathleen McGee and out west.
But not just the working hard, but the actually using sort of what you spoke about here in your storytelling, where you check in with the audience.
That's not a lot of people. Yeah. That's different. But how I do it and what I say and all that, not many people. That's just through 7 years of failing and winning and failing and winning and that,
and realizing,
and working it out.
Yeah, realizing how the audience can add to your act.
Yes.
Like including them.
Yes.
I find if you include one audience member, the whole audience feels like they're part of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, for a long time, I used to have a guy in the audience called Fucky, and then at the end of the show, I would give Fucky a DVD. And the amount of love that the audience had at the end, understanding that, they thought I was making fun of him the whole show. I have a big speech at the end, and he gets a free DVD, and Fucky loves it. Totally changes the atmosphere of a show afterwards. Yeah.
So Fucky's like a
random person in the front row,
and you just decide you're gonna.
I'm gonna call him Fucky.
Yeah.
And it's always a guy who's already laughed at me, so I don't do it till about 5 minutes in.
Yeah.
I watch the front row. Yeah. Who's laughing? Who's not laughing? I never choose a guy that's not laughing because they're not into it.
Yeah.
And then I find a guy. And 95% of the time, he loves it.
Yeah.
Loves being talked to the whole way through. I call him Fucky. The crowd loves it. I give him a DVD. They love it.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. That's
People love it when the audience is involved, but you have to be careful that you don't involve too many of them. And you don't involve a group that's talking. So if that table's talking, I will never talk to them. Really? I will find someone over here. Purposely as far away from the table that talks as possible.
Right.
If I'm going to bring someone in.
Because
you don't give any focus to anyone that's talking. They're either going to learn on their own to shut the fuck up, or I will tell them, and then I go back to nice over here. So that shows the audience that I'm not a dick, because I can be nice.
Yeah.
But fuck these people, or fucking your night up.
Yeah, just shut up. Just shut up.
Oh, I'd say worse than that. But yeah.
What's the thing you did with the mask? Either you posted it.
There was a period of time in Western Canada where I would kind of snap because I'd be on the road too long.
Yeah.
So I did this thing where I'd go on stage with a wrestling mask on, a Mexican wrestling mask, and I would tell the audience that the club has told me that I have to wear a mask on stage because I'm getting all my laughs from how I look and not from my jokes, and that's not good for me. You've got to get laughs from your jokes. So, if you guys agree not to laugh at me, I will take the mask off and do my jokes, but you can't laugh at my appearance. And they would all clap. Yes, okay, no problem. They all agree. I take the mask off. There's always one asshole. Always, no matter what, who's going to laugh at my looks.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, fuck you people. I told you guys. And so I put the mask back on, and people will yell, no, don't do it. No. you're a handsome man. Your eyes are beautiful. I've heard it all.
Yeah.
I put the mask back on, and then I do the set with the mask on. It's always mask on. I've done up to 30 minutes with the wrestling mask on. It's hot.
Stink, man.
It's hot.
Oh, wow.
And then I get off, and then people would always come up to me, man, you're funny. Your jokes are funny, man. It's not about what you look like. It's funny. Like, they don't get it.
Yeah.
They don't get it.
The mask. What you do play up what you look like a lot
on
stage, right?
Of course. Yeah. But I hadn't even got to that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm already playing that up before I even start by wearing that mask, because people are like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
But I was, I'm a shit disturber. It's not always the best. But, I find it, what makes me laugh sometimes is more important, because if you want any longevity in this business, you're going to have shitty shows. Yeah. You're going to have shows beyond your control of why you bomb. Yeah. You have to laugh some of it off. Yeah. I've had shows where I've done 45 minutes, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm killing, because I'm selling this material. I'm hitting all the points. The audience hates me. It's me against them. And then at the end of the show, I've said to them, normally I sell my DVDs, but you know what? Tonight, you're not allowed to own them. You're not allowed to own them. Then I end the show. I run to the back. I still set my table up of all my merch. Yeah. And as they walk by, some people try to come up to buy it and say, no, I told you. You're not allowed to own it. No one in this room will ever own a piece of me outside of that ticket you paid. And then people are like, oh, man, this is great. I get it. I get it. Okay, you get it. Get the fuck out.
You're a rock star, man.
You got to stay committed.
Yeah, that's great.
Commitment is half of the game.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, man, for sure. Yeah, being yourself. Keep it going. How did you meet your wife?
So I lived in a place in Toronto called the Annex. And at the time, I was, working those 30, 40 weeks a year. But Monday to Thursday, I'm home doing nothing. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. So I got to spend something and do time. And I don't spend money, because you got to live a very basic lifestyle, especially in the beginning when you're not making a lot of money. So I was on the web, and I would just be on the web for hours. And so the way my house was, the apartment I was living in, which was a house split up 3 ways, the window to my bedroom, I'd be sitting at the computer and the window was beside me. It was close to another window in the next house, which was their kitchen. And this kitchen looked into my bedroom window, and they'd see me at the computer. So
with your mask on.
Yeah, not yet. That's later. So I'm talking to this girl, and she goes, I live in Sudbury. I said, I play in Sudbury a lot, doing stand-up. And I'm like, I live in Toronto. She goes, I used to live in Toronto. I said, I live in the Annex. She goes, I used to live in the Annex. I go, I live in Palmerston. She goes, I used to live on Palmerston. And I go, I live at 421 Palmerston. And she's like, oh, my God, you're the dude. And it turned out that she lived at 419, which was next door, and they used to make fun of me every day, because they'd come into the kitchen, they'd make their meal, they'd see me on the computer, they'd leave, come back 4 hours later, he's still on the computer, he's still there, leave, get up the next morning, I'm still on the computer, he's still on the computer, And so then she's like, you should message my roommate, because we used to make fun of you. So I messaged her through email, and then I met for a drink, and that was like 18 years ago.
Oh, so it was the roommates that you ended up marrying.
Yeah.
Wow, that's like a
So
romantic
she actually
comedy.
lived beside me for like 2 years.
Incredible.
Yeah, and made fun of me for at least a year.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So
I'm like, I've always had the Bon Jovi kind of idea. I'm going to marry someone that hates me, or at least makes fun of me.
And so obviously you're working on comedy when you're doing that.
Yes, yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, all the things we've learned here in the past hour is that you just got to work hard.
Yeah.
Right? Put the time in.
I mean, the working hard only is the true benefit to it is I've been kind of coasting the last couple of years, not grinding it out like I used to, but I've put in the work now that I have the opportunity to kind of coast a little. So if my kid needs a surgery or I'm a little burnt out, I can take a break and I'm still okay. I can't take too long of a break. I still got to keep my foot in the water, but I don't have to grind it out, to keep my name out there.
You save money and well, that's another rarity in the comedy world is people not having to live, paycheck to paycheck and car ride to car ride.
And people get really upset, and other comics are jealous, and they'll go fuck Darren Frost. But I'm like, okay, yeah, fuck me. Okay, you know what? You went to Ottawa, you did 4 shows, right? Yeah. You got hammered at 3 of them. So after the show, you just went and crashed. Yeah. I went back. I did some PR. I did some, new 8x10s. I sent them out, press releases, messages to papers and outlets. And I got 3 articles about my next weekend, and you tried to fuck a waitress and bombed.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality of it.
That is the reality. And that's what the hard work is, right?
Right.
That's the reality. You got to put in that time nowadays.
And I think there's a happy balance. I think I maybe went a little too far the one way, as I said off this top. It's all encompassing. But, there is a balance, and I don't think my way is 100% correct, and I don't think their way is 100%. There's somewhere in the middle where you have enough time to blow off some steam, but you also still get shit done.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that you don't drink, you're saving a ridiculous amount of money, right?
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah, ridiculous for sure. You can easily drink $50 worth of booze a night at a show.
I mean, even back in the late 90s, comics were drinking $50-$60 a night.
Yeah. That's a big advantage for sure.
Yeah.
What do you see? Like, I ask this to every comic on this show. What is the ultimate goal in comedy?
I think it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
I think it's. I always like to say that what people should try to remember, because the longer you're in this, sometimes you kind of forget it. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to veterans about this, and comics that are 10 years in. Sometimes you forget why you got into comedy through years of doing different things, and when you forget why you got into it, that's when you start having a lot of trouble, in my opinion, with comedy. So, for example, I got into this to maybe yell back at the world a little, back at the bullies, write material about my life. Mm-hmm. So it's not all a waste. So I try to remember that as much as I can. So when it's a shitty show, am I still doing what I want to do? To a certain extent, I do. Mm-hmm. Then there's other comics that they got into comedy because they just wanted to be an entertainer. And they're kind of like a fluffy act, but they're getting laughs. Mm-hmm. But then they feel they're not getting the respect from other comics, so they change and they start becoming truth tellers or whatever. Things that they're actually not, but they want to impress other people. Mm-hmm. We're already away from the real reason you got into comedy. Mm-hmm. And that's where you get into problems, in my opinion. So, for example, a comic that I know who's passed away, at one point, he wanted to bring a guitar on stage. I'm like, why? And do hacky songs. But act like they're hacky, like making fun of guitar acts. I said, why are you doing that? Are you just doing because you play guitar? Mm-hmm. He's like, well, yeah. I said, then just fucking play guitar. Don't do hacking on people that play guitar. If you want to do it because you want, just bring up the guitar and do funny songs. There's nothing wrong with that. You're worried about what other people think. Mm-hmm. What's the reason, And he did bring it up and just do normal songs, and it was fine. Mm-hmm. But people start to lose and forget why they got into it. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about success, what's success? That's different for everyone. For me, success is every year better than the year before. Mm-hmm. And if it is, I keep going. If it isn't, I stop, I take a break, I look why, and I figure out. And I said to myself, if there's ever 2 years in a row that I don't feel successful, I will then stop. And it's gotten to many times where 1 year I didn't feel it, and then the next year it got a little better, so I stayed in. Mm-hmm. But it's never been 2 years.
You mean make more money?
No. So, to me, success isn't about money. It can be if I made zero money. Yeah, I want to make more money. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it's like, did I release a DVD? Did I get new material that I'm proud of? Am I still doing what stuff I want to do? Or am I forced to do all these corporate-y, Christmassy party shows only? Mm-hmm. Am I not getting my outlet? There's different, reasons why you stay in.
Mm-hmm. Favorite place is obviously a comedy club?
No. There's no city, there's no venue. Give me 50 people that want to hear the kind of comedy I do. I don't care if it's at a fucking fruit stand. But I want 50 people that want to hear this kind of comedy. That's all.
Yeah. Well, hopefully.
So people say to me, hey, what's your favorite town? Every radio, they always say that. Is Vancouver your favorite? No. Mm-hmm. Is Ottawa? No. Because every town I've been in, I've killed and bombed. Mm-hmm. Because you don't know if it's someone's birthday, and I don't give a fuck where your parents fucked. I don't care or when. But if you can give me 50 people that want to hear dark comedy because they went at least Googled me, watched a clip, knew what they were going to get, it's going to be rock and roll. Yeah. Give me 200 people at a Christmas party, at a comedy club,
mm-hmm.
Maybe not so great.
Darren Frost fans.
Yeah.
50 of them.
Well, it's not even Darren Frost fans, just fans of dark comedy or know what they're going to get. Mm-hmm. If at least they know what they're going to get, I don't have to convince them they should be getting this. Mm-hmm. It's up to them to like it or not like it. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with that. I don't need 50 people already on my bandwagon. Just 50 people willing to pay for a ticket to see if they want to get on that bandwagon is all I ask for. Yeah. And I don't think that's too much.
No, I don't think it's too much either. And that's an hour, man. And that was
right.
That was amazing. You're a true rock star in this industry, and it was a pleasure to have a conversation with you, man. Thanks
a lot. Mark. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll see you
cheers.
tonight. Yep. Let's turn this off. Take a picture.
All right.